Hey everyone, today we're going to dive into a really powerful framework for building a more meaningful life. It's an idea that was inspired by a profound, truly life altering scare, and it reveals what might just be the greatest role any of us can ever play. So picture this. Imagine getting news that makes you feel like your entire life story is ending decades too early. That's exactly where this journey started for author Donald Miller, with a single, terrifying sentence from a doctor that made him feel like, well, the credits were already rolling. The whole framework we're about to explore was sparked by a genuine, life-changing scare. This wasn't some theoretical exercise for him. It was a real-deal crisis that forced him to confront what truly matters. It all kicked off with some routine tests. Day one, everything looked amazing. Brain, lungs, he even had the arteries of a 12-year-old, apparently. But then on day three, a doctor comes in with this really sobering news. There was a problem with his heart. And the worst part? He was told he'd have to wait 8 agonizing days just to see a specialist. 8 full days of complete and total uncertainty. So what do you do when you're waiting like that? He did the one thing you should never do, the mistake we all make. He Googled it. And the results were just terrifying, suggesting a life expectancy of only 1 to 5 years. And the thought that just took over his mind wasn't about his own life. It was the crippling fear of leaving behind his young daughter. See, this fear, it was grounded in this beautiful daily ritual. Every single day in the pool, he'd ask his little girl, Emmeline, "What is Daddy's job?" And every time, she'd reply, "Daddy's job is to protect me." The thought of no longer being there to do that job, well, it was just crushing. Finally, after those 8 long days, the cardiologist delivered the verdict. He was going to be fine. I mean, what a massive relief, right? But here's the thing. The real story, the real lesson here isn't actually about the diagnosis. It's about what he discovered during those 8 days when he truly believed his life was over. What he found in that dark time was this fundamental shift in his perspective. All of his priorities just snapped into crystal clear focus, revealing the true, undeniable meaning of connection. You know, when he thought his time was up, his legacy, his career, his accomplishments, all of it just faded away. It became background noise. What really mattered, what came rushing to the front, were his relationships. As you can see here, it was all about his family, his friends, and his team. Accomplishment felt meaningless. Connection was absolutely everything. And then he had this aha moment. He realized this huge lesson about connection wasn't new at all. In fact, it was hiding in the very thing he'd been studying for decades: story. He saw that our lives follow this narrative pattern that we all just intuitively understand. Think about it. In pretty much every story you've ever watched or read, there are these 4 primary archetypes. You've got the victim, who feels powerless, the villain, who creates the problem, the hero, who's at the center of the journey, and the guide, who is there to help the hero win. And these characters, they all operate within this timeless formula. This structure is just so captivating because it's basically life with all the boring parts edited out. It's a super clear version of our own journeys, and that's why our brains just lock in and pay attention. Okay, so this leads us to the absolute core idea of this whole framework. We all start out as the hero of our own story, right? We're trying to prove ourselves, to win the day. But the arc of a truly healthy, meaningful life isn't about staying the hero forever. It's about making the transition into the role of the guide for other people. So what does it actually mean to be a guide? Let's break down the key characteristics of this archetype, both in the stories we love and in real life. A true guide is actually the strongest character in the story, but their focus is entirely on someone else. They pursue excellence not for their own glory, but to better serve the hero. They stand confidently in their authority, and, maybe most importantly, they affirm the hero's growth and transformation. And the contrast is pretty stark when you put them side by side. The hero always starts out flawed. They're afraid, they're filled with self-doubt, and they desperately need help. The guide, on the other hand, is competent and capable. They've already conquered this kind of challenge, and their whole purpose in the story is simply to help the hero succeed. This whole idea of being other-centered is captured perfectly by the former Seahawks coach Pete Carroll. He found that his own athletic victories gave him a feeling that faded over time, a diminishing return on meaning. But when he shifted his focus to coaching, to helping other people win, that feeling of fulfillment never, ever faded. Right, and a guide's pursuit of excellence isn't about ego at all. It's about elevating others. Think about a world-class restaurant. Its incredible reputation exists so that when it welcomes a guest, that person feels like they truly belong, like they're special. The guide's excellence is there to serve the hero. And you'll notice effective guides never apologize for their expertise. In the king's speech, the guide, Lionel, doesn't back down. He asserts his authority because he knows it's what's needed. And Mary Poppins, well, she certainly doesn't apologize for her methods. They stand in their authority because that's what gives the hero the security they need to grow. And finally, maybe the guide's most beautiful and crucial role is to affirm the hero's transformation. In the movie Moneyball, the guide, played by Jonah Hill, shows Billy Bean a video clip of a player who hits a home run but doesn't even realize it. He's basically telling Billy, "You already won, even if you can't see it yet." The guide helps the hero see the change in themselves. So look, this framework isn't just about analyzing movies. It's a really powerful model for living. And it's illustrated perfectly by one person from Miller's own life who truly embodied the role of a guide. Let me tell you about a man named David Gentiles. He was Miller's youth pastor, the guy who first encouraged him to write. Now, by any worldly standard, David's career peaked as the pastor of a pretty small church, only about 75 people. He was always helping others, never promoting himself. But then, when David passed away, something absolutely incredible happened. So many people planned to come to his funeral that it had to be moved from a small church to a bigger church, and finally, to the local baseball stadium. And it was filled with thousands of people whose lives he had quietly and profoundly impacted. And that is the profound paradox of this whole idea. David Gentiles spent his entire life playing the guide, never once seeking the spotlight. And in the end, it was revealed that he was a hero to thousands. A life dedicated to guiding others is very often the most heroic life you can possibly live. So this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We all start as the hero of our own journey. That's natural. But the greatest meaning, the deepest fulfillment, comes from helping someone else with theirs. Your story matters. The real question is, who will you choose to be a guide for?